Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Take a good look at this head of broccoli. It's on our dinner plates, in our salads, and packed into our healthy smoothies. But have you ever stopped to wonder where it actually came from? What if I told you that this perfectly structured green vegetable didn't exist in the wild? That's right. The story of broccoli is a fascinating tale of transformation, a journey thousands of years in the making, shaped by the hands of our ancestors. It's a story of how a rugged, bitter plant from the Mediterranean coast became one of the world's favorite vegetables. So grab a snack, maybe some broccoli, and let's dive into the incredible evolution of this green giant. Our journey begins in the Mediterranean, specifically along the coastal cliffs of ancient Italy. Long before it was a superfood, broccoli's ancestor was a wild plant known as Brassica oleracea or simply wild cabbage. This wasn't a plant you'd want to toss in a stir-fry. It was a tough biennial plant, built to survive in poor rocky soil. To protect itself from being eaten by animals, it was loaded with bitter-tasting compounds. It was resilient, hardy, and not particularly tasty. But somewhere along the line, early humans looked at this tough, bitter plant and saw potential. They noticed its edible parts and began a process of selection that would change agriculture forever. They started picking and replanting the ones with slightly more desirable traits, maybe larger leaves, or a more tender stalk, or a hint less bitterness. This was the very first step in a long, human-guided evolutionary journey. They weren't just foraging anymore. They were actively shaping the future of their food. Fast forward a few thousand years to the 16th century. In the gardens of Italy, something amazing was happening. Through generations of careful selection, the wild Brassica oleracea had been coaxed into several different forms. It's like the plant had a hidden genetic toolkit, and farmers were learning how to use it. This single species gave rise to a whole family of vegetables we know and love today: leafy kale, tightly headed cabbage, and the star of our show, broccoli. Italian cultivators had become particularly interested in the plant's unopened flower buds. They favored plants that produced dense, tightly packed clusters of these buds, what we now call florets. Why? Because they were easier to harvest, easier to cook, and tasted better. This intentional selection process was like evolution on fast forward. The plants with the biggest, most tender florets and the least amount of bitterness were chosen to produce seeds for the next generation. Each season, the crop became a little closer to the broccoli we recognize, moving further and further away from its wild, bitter ancestor. What's truly fascinating is how this process differs from natural evolution. In the wild, evolution is driven by random mutations and the pressures of the environment's survival of the fittest. A plant might develop more bitterness to ward off a new pest, for example. But with broccoli, humans became the primary selective pressure. Farmers weren't selecting for survival in the wild. They were selecting for taste, texture, and convenience. They wanted bigger heads, florets that were all the same size for even cooking, and a milder, more pleasant flavor. This human-guided selection allowed broccoli to evolve at a speed that nature simply couldn't match. It's a perfect example of artificial selection, where human desires and ingenuity become the driving force behind a species' development. We essentially redesigned the plant to better suit our needs, turning a wild weed into a cultivated crop. But here's the cool part. Even with all this human intervention, broccoli never forgot its roots. Genetic studies show that modern broccoli still carries many of the hardy, stress-resistant genes from its wild cabbage ancestor. It retains a tolerance for poor soils, a natural resistance to certain pests, and the ability to grow in a variety of climates. These inherited traits are what allow broccoli to leave its Mediterranean homeland and spread across the globe. It could adapt to different growing conditions in Europe, North America, and beyond. At the same time, our culinary tastes were evolving right alongside the plant. As we cultivated broccoli to be less bitter and more tender, we also developed new ways to cook and enjoy it. The high nutritional value of broccoli packed with vitamins, Minerals and antioxidants undoubtedly played a role in its continued popularity, encouraging farmers to keep refining it. It was a cycle of co-evolution. We changed the broccoli, and in turn, it changed our diets for the better. Today, the legacy of this human-guided evolution is on full display in the sheer variety of broccoli available. You have the classic calabrese, with its large green head, which is probably what most of us picture. But there's also sprouting broccoli, which has smaller flowers on long, thin stalks. And then there's the visually stunning Romanesco, with its fractal-like, spiral-patterned florets. Each of these varieties highlights subtle differences in floret arrangement, taste, and growth habits. They are all descendants of that one wild cabbage, yet they look and taste distinct, showcasing the incredible diversity that can be unlocked through selective breeding. It is a living testament to generations of farmers who saw potential in a wild plant and meticulously shaped it to create something new, beautiful, and nutritious. Broccoli's story is a powerful reminder that evolution isn't just a process that happens out there in nature. It's something we've been participating in for millennia. So when we look at broccoli, we're not just looking at a vegetable. We're looking at a piece of living history. Its journey from a hardy plant clinging to coastal cliffs, defending itself with bitter chemicals, to a beloved staple in kitchens worldwide, is a story of partnership between nature and humanity. It shows how our needs, preferences, and ingenuity can accelerate and direct the course of evolution. The wild ancestor was focused on survival. The modern broccoli is focused on providing nutrition and delighting our taste buds. This transformation illustrates a broader principle. Evolution is a dynamic, ongoing process that can be profoundly influenced by human activity. We didn't just discover broccoli. In a very real sense, we helped to create it. To wrap things up, the evolution of broccoli is a beautiful story of resilience, adaptation, and co-evolution. Every single floret on that head of broccoli tells a piece of this story, a tale of natural selection meeting human innovation. From a wild coastal plant to a global food source, broccoli is a powerful example of how we have shaped the world around us, turning the wild into the wonderful. It is a reminder that the food on our plates often has a much deeper and more interesting history than we might imagine. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the history of broccoli. I hope it gives you a new appreciation for this incredible vegetable next time you see it. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more stories behind our food. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you in the next one.